How's it going, everybody? Real quick, just want to tell you guys I was on 34 Questions, hands down, an amazing experience. It was eye-opening being able to talk about certain situations in my life. So if you want to check that out, go on YouTube, Instagram, the Facebooks, all that 34 Questions. It's going to be there. Catch you later.
What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. Today I have a very special guest. Roberto is in the building. How you doing, man?
Right now, just chilling, enjoying my after work hours, just relaxing.
Nice. You got off work recently, huh? It hasn't been that too long, or?
Yeah, so I think I literally just got off maybe like 16 minutes ago.
Wow.
So like.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. And not paying me this overtime at all either.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand about that youth work. I mean, you do it from your heart, and like you just hope that, they respect that, but sometimes it's hard to get what you're owed. But
they say game recognizes game. Some industries they don't even recognize the game itself. So
true, because every industry is a game. It's a system, we're all just trying to be parts of it, unless you make your own lane, which all the youngsters out there, go ahead and try.
Go for it.
Yeah, man. So for those unfamiliar with the show, we do a few intro questions to set the tone. I have a little icebreaker, which is a one-word spelling bee. Feel free to participate. Feel free to say no. It's all up to you. And then we jump into the main dish of the episode, where you choose a number between 1 and 34, and we roll it through the conversation that way. Sound good to you, Roberto?
Let's go.
For sure. Before we get started, man, just want to thank you again for coming on. For the folks who don't know, we're meeting each other for the first time right now. So, definitely appreciate the openness and the energy. So thank you. And yeah.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. It's glad I could be here, honestly.
For sure. My first question for you, man, is how have you been? You've been doing well? You've been going through it? How you been, man?
Man, it's one of those questions that could either have the simplest or the most complex. I guess to give a little bit of an in-between for it, it's been highs and lows for the last couple of weeks. Highs and lows. Just so for those that don't know, I do youth work, so we're planning like events in May. I have events to plan for over the summertime, possible in-person learning during the summertime. On top of that, I go to school part-time now, online. So it's like trying to get everything balanced, and then a bunch of like extracurricular stuff that I do on the side. So my plate's full as of right now.
For sure. I mean, doing work with youth, how has that been a challenge for you guys? Since, and right now we're in that point where it's like, oh, we coming back for a little bit. I don't know if every district's like that. I don't know if what the rules are, but how has it been challenging for you?
So I would say the biggest thing when it comes to like youth work through distance learning is trying to beat all the other forms of entertainment kids have. So I'm out here, I'm trying to produce quality stuff and trying to engage with students in a way that's like really impactful for their lives. And it's easy to do that in person, because in reality, it's like when their parents really sign them up for like an after school program, they're forced to be there for a while. But like when you have the option of even going to your main classes, it's difficult, because I'm fighting, like I'm trying to do, like, for example, right, I'm doing a 3D printing class, getting the ball rolling for that. And 3D printing may be persuasive to some students, but those some students may be one or two out of like 300 students. And it's like, I have to beat TikTok, I have to beat Instagram, I have to beat like any form of social media, YouTube, to Disney Plus, I have to go against their Xboxes or PlayStation. So it's like, it's a huge fight, but I'm not deterred because of the fight. I'm as intentional as I was even when I was in person.
I got you. Oh. Yeah. That's a whole different, like, what you brought up is something I had thought about as far as in the very beginning, when it just felt like, damn, these teachers have to learn to be influencers. You know, they have to be able to grab attention, and, you know, play on what kids find important, and for them to keep their attention. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's been like. And I had one friend who told me he was never comfortable in front of webcams until he was forced to do it, right? And now it's like, whatever, right? It's like, I don't care what I look like. I don't care what I sound like. Like, now I just got so used to it. But for sure. My second question for you is, what would you like your descendants to know about you? Kind of explained it, the premise of it to you right before you came on. And yeah, feel free if you need any more clarification.
I would say, so it's something I think about on a regular basis. You know, when you brought it up to me originally, like before this started, I was like, oh, this is like a relatively easy question to ask, because I'm always thinking about it. Like, every decision I make has some influence, whether as it could be as like minute or like as like huge of an impact on like future generations. And I would say, when it comes to my life, what I want to be, I guess you can say, like, you know, the billboard sign of my life was that I was able to change what the past generations did and create a new lane for myself of humility and like real intentionality in people's lives. Like, being as intentional as I can in helping someone change from who they were, or like, in a sense, like, stop those generational like curses and like really propel them in a direction forward. Like, that's as beneficial for them in their future generations as it could be. Gotcha.
Yeah. This third question, I'm surprised you said it was an easy question, and I'm glad that there are other people who have thought about this before, because sometimes they're just like, oh man, I never, you know. But so no, this is exactly what this podcast is for, people like ourselves and people who want to start thinking about those things. So thank you for sharing. This third question is, how would you like to be honored? If I was going to tell myself today I'm going to honor Roberto in some kind of act or way, what would that look like?
I guess, like, in a way, all right, to dive a little bit deeper, what do you mean by honored? Like,
I think about it in the way of like, it's like someone came on the other day and was like, you know, maybe people to honor me could write their favorite quote on a poster board and like plaster that on the wall, and so you have this wall of quotes, and someone else was just like, you know, I want you to do something that would remind you of me, you know, kind of thing. So I was like, oh, you know, I would go to the field and, you know, play football or something. So yeah, I know we don't know each other that well. Yeah.
So I would say, if someone wanted to honor me, if someone really wanted to, I guess, like, do something that made them remind themselves of me, I would say would be, like, the most important thing out of everything would be, like, really just serve. Like, I want the concept of like serving another person to be like, oh, like, for like, let's say, for example, like when I have kids in the future, like me being able to serve people with something that I got to do. I understand that is, for me mentally, like, I understand it is an opportunity. It's not a responsibility. It's an opportunity that I get to serve. So I want someone to think of it being like, if I'm able to serve someone else, whatever that may look like, maybe, you know, buying someone a meal, buying someone a cup of coffee, or like whatever it is, like a small act like that could be like, in a sense, like, oh, you know, for my kids, my dad did that, or, you know, grandpa, or like my friend Berto was like that, or like, you know what I mean? Something in that way where it's like, it doesn't have to be like, get a tattoo of my face on your forearm, or like do the whole like 50 Cent Steve-O thing, like get it on your back. But it's like, I want action to be associated to it.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
You ever heard of the drive-through miracle?
No.
It's when you pay extra for the person behind you.
Oh yeah.
So then it's
I did that once, and it was like, it was a good thing, and it was an even greater thing because I got to bless a whole family once, and then I got to bless just some dude that was behind me once. So it was like, it just, on my bank statement it looked like a huge negative, but it was a great opportunity.
Oh yeah, man. And you never know, like, that's what I like about it. It's just so random. You don't know the person behind you. They could be very grateful, or they could be very, like, they could take advantage of it. I've had that experience both ways, like, someone's very grateful, but then I remember one time that happened, and I drove off, and then someone was all like, "You sucker," like,
oh dang.
And I was like, "Damn, bro, I should have never done that." But yeah. So I've had it both ways. When it made me feel good, and also made me feel kind of bad. And I was like, man, that person didn't deserve it, but it's all good.
The cool part is, even if they don't deserve it, it's something that's like, it's still a gift, so it's one of those things. It's like I said earlier, it's an opportunity, whether they see it as one or not.
You're right. I mean, I could hold on to the fact that it was still like positive energy that I was trying to put out there, regardless of how it's taken. But,
exactly.
Yeah, man. So my fourth question, the last question of the intro, is how well do you know yourself? And if it's hard to put into words, you could just do a scale from 1 to 10.
I would say I know myself pretty well. Like, I spend a lot of time doing meditations, doing like self-analyzing, seeing where I'm at in different stages of my life, not just like the whole end of the year, like, what did I do this year? It's like, it's more like, what did I do this week, or what did I do this month? But I would say, on a scale from 1 to 10, still trying to understand who I am, because I'm obviously we're as we grow, we're changing. Things that we liked in the past change, things like that. So it's like, I would say I'm at maybe like a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10, for sure. No, that's good, man. I mean, you always gotta give yourself a little space, to know more about yourself. For me, I normally answer with the 5, because I think it's like that balance, and things can change over time, so I can never really know for sure. I tell people that at my highest of highs, I feel like I know myself the most. My lowest of lows, I feel like I don't know who the hell I am. So yeah, that's where I generally just sit in the middle for that question. But cool. We are jumping into the icebreaker portion, which is the 1-word spelling bee. You down to participate, or are you cool off it?
I'm gonna try, just for the comedic side of things. I'm 100% dyslexic, so if I put some eyes, like mess them up or something like that, I'm cool. Like, but I'll do it. I'll do it just for comedy purposes.
Right on, man. I appreciate it. And don't feel bad. It's not like everybody I come on here like gets the word right. I've had more people get it wrong than right, I'll tell you that. So you're not alone in that bunch. But the people who get it right, man, they're juiced sometimes. All right, man. So your word today is epilepsy.
Oh man, I already feel like I'm gonna mess this up.
You got 2 chances, so take your time.
Oh, and you lucky too, because I got a keyboard that's hecka clicky, so you would hear it if I started typing. Let's go with epilepsy. Man, I'm about to show like how bad I was at spelling. Public school messed me up, man. Hooked on phonics didn't help either. Is it? I feel like there's. All right, so it's EPELLEPSY.
You got one more chance. There's two
was
letters. Well, no, you had 2 letters that you could switch with each other, and at the end, I think you yeah, at the end you just had it fixed, but
Oh man,
everything else was fine. I know
I'll do
that's
it.
not that helpful.
I know it's like it was good, but like you missed the mark.
Yeah, trying to be supportive but also realistic.
It's like I know you went for the 3, but you also like built the bricks, or like you shot a brick. So great job
Nice try. Yeah.
for building public housing. No, oh man. I'm good. You know what? I don't want to embarrass myself anymore after that one, but
All right, no worries. So you good?
I'm good. I'm good. I'll take what I got.
All right, it was EPILEPSY, or yeah, SY.
That's why.
EPILEPSY. Yeah, it's a hard one, man. This is a new one. I had been using the word liaison in all my episodes, and I don't know if you would have known that one, but since I had been using it so much, my dad actually told me, he's all like, you need to change that word up. It's like starting to get dry. I'm like, all right, well, use a medical term.
Hey, yeah, right?
Yeah, those medical terms definitely hard.
Dude, my sister's doing she's in a nursing program right now, so if that's the case, I'm gonna start taking some words from her.
Yo, I mean, you could. And you ever want to just pull out a pop quiz spelling bee for anybody, just be like, okay. I mean, it's kind of fun too, like depending on the environment. I think it could be useful. For sure. All right, man. Main portion of the interview. Go ahead and choose a number between 1 and 34.
Oh man, I felt like 16 is where it's at.
All right, this one's a relatively easy one. You know Harry Potter? I'm familiar with Harry Potter.
Sure, yeah. Let's go with that. No. I watch all the movies. Do I enjoy them? Nah.
Okay. Are you familiar with the term Patronus?
Damn. I've heard of it. I don't. If you were to ask me to define it, no go.
Well, the reason I set it up this way is because the original question is, what is your spirit animal? And then someone told me on the show, was like, yo, that's appropriating indigenous people culture. And I'm like, oh shit, like now I feel bad about it. And they're like, yeah, just switch it to the Harry Potter Patronus thing, which is basically an animal that comes out of their wand when they do magic. So for you, which animal would you relate yourself to? Oh, actually, yeah, do that. Do one first, but I figured out a way.
Oh man, which animal would I relate myself to?
If you're gonna have an animal character play your personality, play you in a show, what would that animal be?
I would probably. I think I would go with like something like a ram or something like that.
Okay, for sure.
Just because I know I'm hard-headed, but I can also maneuver myself out of like difficult situations. Yeah. A
ram.
Go with that. Yeah.
That's dope. That's the first time I heard someone, claim the ram. But all right. I mean, now you kind of get the flow of the show. Go ahead and throw me another number.
Ooh, let's go with 25.
What is your natural talent?
Oh man, I think it was for sure talking, but like what really became my natural talent was comedy. But not being like, stand-up comedian like in front of a stage, like saying a bunch of jokes, but it's like definitely like being able to speak to people, getting to know people like super well, and like being able to crack jokes to like get people out of their stump, like is definitely where it's at for me.
So you can like kind of read situations too, right? I feel like that's something with comedy, is that you're able to like kind of be aware of what's going on and finding little pockets of humor.
Yeah, so like sometimes I'm really good at it, where it's like I know like in a sense like what the people around me are interested in comedically speaking, but like other times I'm like busting out some real dark humor to like a really light situation, and it's like, but to me, it's also as funny because it's like I say a funny joke, but it puts people in an awkward situation, and it's like I know I should laugh, but I can't, and then I'm just the one in the background after saying the joke, the only person that's laughing at my own joke, even though it's like some people would walk back up to me later, go, yeah, that was actually funny. I just didn't want to do it because it was like an awkward situation.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I took a comedy class once in college. It's funny that I took a class in college once. It's like that thing of like setting yourself up like, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I don't. But one of the things in that comedy class that was taught to me that's always stuck to me was comedy is either like the bitter truth or something so unexpected. You know, it's like something that just comes out of nowhere and you're just like, what's that? And then you kind of just laugh at it, right? Nah, I feel you, man. Anytime like I'm watching a show or a movie and something just comes out of left field, I'm just like, oh, I find that funny because I was not expecting that shit to come up. Yeah,
Joe Rogan says it best, where it's like he like so many times people get upset at him because of the stuff he says, and he's like, or him and Bill Burr, they both said the same thing roughly, where it's like, you guys get so upset with what I say, but it's like, if I actually believe this stuff, that's what you should be worrying about. And it's like, it's, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you can either like, as to your point, it's like, you can either really know something or you say something so absurd that it's like, at some point or in some way in like the comedy spectrum, it's funny. It's just one of those things that maybe few or selected people may understand, and it's like it's a difficult craft, but doing the craft is almost like, I would say it's almost like interviewing. It's trying to figure out the best, you know, flow that goes with the people that you're working with, and just like trying to make sure it goes in that direction. But yeah.
No, yeah, and I mean, you got to know your audience, right? If you're gonna do that as well, because the wrong audience is not gonna get any laughs, but around the right people, then you know it'll be a good time.
Exactly.
As far as dark humor goes, what's some examples of like in TV or movies that you like?
Oh, like for dark humor or just in general? Because dark humor, I would say like, I love Patrice O'Neal. He says some of like the raunchiest stuff, but it's like hands down hella funny.
Patrice O'Neal?
Yeah, Patrice O'Neal.
R.I.P. Man.
Yeah, he was a great man. One of my favorite bits, and like I remember this because I watched it, I think when I was in middle school or high school, where he was talking about how it's like if he ever went on a boat, he would have like I think like a white baby on a chain. So that way, like, they always find, for some reason, they never find like minorities. Like if there's like a lost in like a search for like kids, it's like the minority ones end up becoming most of the issue. Like they have issues trying to find them. But it's like the white kids, they always find them in like maybe about a day or two or something like that. Or like, you know, whatever. And he's like, man, if I ever got lost, like I know I'd be lost. I would be gone forever. But like if I did want to bring something with me, it would be like a white baby on a chain, and I would have that like on my side at all times, just so that way if I ever did, they would find the white baby and just so happen to stumble upon me.
That is hilarious, bro.
No, dark wise, yes, but it's just one of those things. It's like, you know, hey, you're bringing light to a very dark situation and turning it into a comedic experience for people. So.
That's a skill. Yeah, it's definitely a skill. When did you feel like you kind of discovered that for yourself?
Oh, I would say it had to be in high school. I think like when it came to comedy or just like being conversational.
Let's start with comedy and then conversational.
Oh, comedy was exclusively because of the fact that like I was going through a really difficult time as a kid. Like my parents were going through divorce and all that stuff. And by the way, I have no issues talking about all this stuff. I'm good. But yeah, so like my parents were going through it, and a lot of it was going on during high school. And I met a friend, and it was kind of like one of those things where it's like we were both relatively through the same situation, like, and in a sense, it's like we would just crack jokes. all the time and just crack jokes to each other, about each other, like in a sense, like literally just like it would be roasting each other or like quick-wittedness or like things like that. And it was like really just trying to craft it as a coping mechanism to the situation that I would have to return to at like 3-4 p.m., you know, going back home. So like it was definitely at that time that I loved comedy, favored comedy, turned to it as an outlet, and my Netflix subscription at that time did not help at all, because it was like all like that, and YouTube messed me up. It was watching Eddie Murphy's Delirious. I was watching like all of Dave Chappelle's work at that time, and like Bill Burr, and like all these different, you know, comedians that I love so much. So it's like it was that part, it was that time, and at that time I really needed it to get through what I went through.
No doubt. And as far as being a conversationalist,
you know, I would say it would have to be around, it was definitely before that, but it was because of the same circumstances. You know, like, and you or your audience may know, it's like when people go through childhood trauma, you always get this like phrase that's tossed at you, whether it's through trauma or like through other experiences. It's like you get this idea that that kid is very matured for their age. Mm-hmm. So it's like, because of that, I was really mature for my age when I was younger, and a lot of it was associated to me talking to adults. So like I would talk to every adult that I saw when I was a kid, being like elementary, middle, high school, all that, and like really like moving myself away from even the kids that I would be in the same grade with, and like specifically talking to adults and just like conversing with them. And like that really helped me develop this whole like in a sense, like, you know, as we mentioned earlier, or as you mentioned earlier, it's like we don't know each other, but it's like, you know, this is flowing like if we did. So it's like it's just one of those things. It's like I had this when I was 12. I did the same thing I'm doing with you now when I was at a younger age. And it was like definitely because of trauma. Got you.
Yeah. And as always, man, thank you for opening up. Go ahead and hit me with another number.
Ooh, all right. Let me see. Let me get 34.
Okay. Would you like to be famous?
It's like an internal dilemma. I feel like if I were to say yes, it can go one of two ways. You know, I guess fame and influence, and I'm 100% pulling this from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it amplifies who you are. So it's like, depending on who you are, it like really magnifies that by like X. So it's a difficult thing, because it's like I would love to be famous. I would love to be famous for having a huge heart, for being kind, being generous, all that. But it's like I don't think I would appreciate like the magnification that one has in that in the limelight. It's like when you're famous, it's like you have no break. Every single day you have to be you, and if you're not you, then you're playing some other character. And that's difficult when you think about it. Like most of these celebrities that we you know, we look at now, or like we walk past, like when we're checking out our groceries in the grocery aisle, and it's like the tabloids that are right there, it's always about either like something good or something bad that's happened in their lives. And it's like, you know, similar to customer service, it's like everybody always remembers the bad. Like one of my favorite artists, Kanye West, it's like he's one cat that like we all know the good stuff he's done, but we also know a bunch of the bad stuff he's done, and like a bunch of the stuff that's gone on in his life and things like that. And it's, you know, you can grab any artist, Taylor Swift. No, I'm not trying to say anything about those two right now, but
Yeah.
no, but it's like, it's like you can do the same thing about her, or Tim McGraw or whatever. It's like, so I would love to, so that way I can show people, in a sense, what a genuine heart that is full of care for the community looks like, but at the same time, don't hold me as the example, or don't hold me as, in a sense, like the icon of X, Y, and Z movement. Because it's like, I guess if I could, I would be famous with the stipulation that understand I will fail my audience at some point. Just like how I will fail my sister at maybe picking her up from school one day, fail my mom at like taking out the trash or whatever. It's like, understand I'm human and I'm flawed, and that's the side to keep into consideration. So don't hold me to a higher standard because of my fame or whatever. But I wouldn't mind.
No, man, I feel you, man.
Who wouldn't,
Yeah. I mean, it just opens up a lot more doors, doors that we have no idea exist, getting to a certain level of fame. But, someone another guest of mine came on and dropped a line that stuck out to me when you were answering, and it was basically, I'm not a role model, I'm a real model. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel that. I'm definitely gonna use that, because I feel the same way you do, man. Like, if there was a celebrity that I kind of want to match my fame with, like as far as how they handle it, could be like a Keanu Reeves or Dave Chappelle, because like Keanu Reeves, no one says bad about Keanu Reeves. It's like, and like Dave Chappelle too, where he got a lot of like pushback and kind of a little bit of hate on him for doing the whole like, you don't put my stuff out because that contract was whack. And I seen a lot of people from the other side saying like, yo, you signed that contract, man, like it's not their fault that you did or anything like that. So I was like, damn, I didn't know people like was supporting that other side. I get it, but for me as an artist too, it's just like, yo, if I wish I had known, and if I had the power, and which Dave does now, that he could just be like, no, take it down or pay me. And so I'm glad he got his money. But yeah. He's been quiet. He pops out in and out, gives us like, nuggets of wisdom, and moves on. And that's the kind of dude I would want to be if I ever reach that kind of fame. But yeah.
I agree with that. I would definitely go along the same lines. Like Dave Chappelle's hands down. It's like, he's either going to do or say something. It's just a matter of when for him. So, I remember he was doing a COVID special, and he was talking about like, I think it was like the whole movement that's gone on, like this whole thing that's going on with, especially like in minority communities, specifically the African American one. And people were asking him about his perspective on it. And I think one of the things he was saying was like, definitely don't look for a celebrity's point of view. But like, I stayed quiet because of the whole thing, because it was something that I recognized way before all you guys did. Now you guys, it's one of those things where it's like, to your point, when he talks, it's like, and he's serious in a sense. Hopefully people can understand when he's joking about a situation or being serious about it. It's like when he's serious, it's really like it's a great nugget of information that we can walk away with.
Yeah, man. Like, you ever heard that phrase where like we have a problem if what's it called? We take comedians more seriously than we do politicians.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. That sticks to me too, man. Because I definitely feel like when a new Dave Chappelle drops, I'm going to it right away, trying to hear what he's saying, and then hella reflecting about it, wanting to talk about it with other people. But when a politician says something, I'm just like brushing it off. Like, how do I know this is real? How do I know this is true? And that's a whole nother thing. But all right, man. Did you have anything else to add before we move on?
No. Yeah, I'm good with that one.
Go ahead and shoot another number.
Let's go with 8.
8. What does your personal heaven look like?
Ooh. Like, oh man, I feel like there's so many sides to that. It's like, what do you mean? Like currently, like right now, if like I had things, or like expand on that.
Yeah. So the environment that you would want to spend eternity in, what would be there?
Oh, so I guess to be open about me a little bit more, like I come from like a Pentecostal Christian background.
Okay.
Like hands down, if I were to spend eternity somewhere, it would be 100% like in the kingdom, chilling with my homie Jesus Christ. Love you, God. We're not gonna get copyrighted for that, right? We're not gonna
No, I don't think so, dude.
I don't know. Everybody says it, man. But yeah, no. Yeah, so like hands down, it would be like 100% in that situation. It's like, because in reality, like for me, I understand like this position that we're in right now in Earth. It's like it's temporary. You know, whether or not you believe in God, you understand that there's an aspect of like time ends for all of us at some point. So because of that, at that point, focusing on one's eternity kind of, you know, we really don't give it the time of day. So it's like because of that, and where I'm at both mentally, spiritually, it's like 100% in the presence of God. Got no issue about that. That's it. Sign the check. We done with that.
For sure, man. This might be a little too deep, so let me know if you prefer not to answer. But was there ever a time where you may have felt like your faith wavered? You know, or like, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that easiest question ever, man. Man, ask more questions like that. Yeah, 100%. So like, I grew up in Catholic school. Like I grew up going to Catholic school. I'm Latin American. Like my mom's from El Salvador, my dad's from Nicaragua. You know, shout out pupusas, nacatamales. You know, everything else in between. So, so like I grew up in that, like, in that way. We grew up Catholic. That's just what we were, and you know, we just accepted it. And I spent years going to Catholic school, and like I had my biggest issue with my faith was associating my dad, who was abusive to me, my sisters, and my mother, to the Father, to God. How am I supposed to call one my father, but the other one isn't really a father? Is, you know, he's laying hands on the whole family. So it's one of those issues that like I really struggled with internally. Yeah. And I became an atheist. I dropped religion 100%. And like it was one of those things that was easy but also difficult, because I spent 6 years as an atheist thinking about everything, thinking about, you know, God, and like really ultimately coming back, but as an agnostic person. I didn't want to admit God, I didn't want to admit Jesus Christ, like all that stuff. I was just like, no, like, you know, let me look around, let me see what happened. And like, you know, in the Christian's point of view, this is the testimony. And like, and you know, like I really struggled with that. I tried my hardest to disprove God, but it was one of those things where it's like I would look up an answer when it came to an atheistic point of view, and like somehow, some way, God would like crumble that in the future. And like when I was a senior in high school, that's when I gave myself to, you know, Jesus. And like I still dropped the whole religious aspect of it, because it's like I'm not, you know, the things I do now, I'm not doing because I have to do it. But as I mentioned earlier, it's like it's an opportunity for me to do it. Something I get to do. So because of that mind, you know, change, that flip of the switch, so to speak, it was one of those things that really helped me to be where I'm at now and understand, you know what, like I may not have all the answers in the world. I may not have all the answers about God, but it's one of those things where it's like, you know, whether or not I struggle with it, my faith is on firm foundation. It's on a firm rock, and it's like, it's unmovable at this point.
It's dope, man. It's inspiring to hear that when people can come back and, you know, have that faith. I don't consider myself religious. I'm more of a spiritual person. Someone called me, I was having a conversation about this a long time ago, and they labeled me a self-referencing theologian, which was I take bits and pieces of everything and kind of create my own like way of thought. And it was like, oh yeah, I mean, it is kind of true about me. I I also Catholic school, K through 8, out here in the city. I don't know if you're familiar with St. Finn Bar out in Glen Park, but that's where I went.
Maybe I went to I've lived in like Daly City my whole life, so it's like I went to OLPH, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. So I was probably that one fat asthmatic kid that had goggles for glasses playing basketball against that
I was that dude in San Francisco, bro, because I had the goggles too. I remember going to away games and they clowning me hella hard, calling me bug-eyed or whatever. I was like, damn, man, like people really clowning me on these goggles, but way better than our regular glasses, right? Like those shits would break. Yeah.
Dude, if you don't know, man, get you a pair of goggles and see how dope that is. It's like you look crazy, but when you're on the court, bro, you dropping dimes like no tomorrow.
You know what, man? You just inspired me. I'm probably gonna start rocking goggles as a fashion statement. Just
bro,
like
bring it on.
maybe. I gotta figure that out, but I'm with it. Go ahead, man. Throw me another number.
Let's go with 2.
2. So this one's a little bit open-ended, but if you could, the question is, how would you rank the things you love? And that could be a lot of things, but if I was gonna give you a number, like let's say 3 things, how would you rank those 3 things, and what are they?
I would say it would have to be family. So like number 1 has to be family. Like putting my family first is definitely something, like it was something I grew up with. I really fended for my mom. I really fended for my sisters and all that. So it's definitely up there. 1 for sure. 2 would be the work that I do currently with the youth. So it's like understanding that my childhood experiences really showed me one thing that I really, really needed in my life, and that was a positive figure, specifically like a positive male figure in my life. So it's like understanding my position, how I'm affecting the youth that I'm working with, 100%. So it would for sure be that. And for the 3rd one, I would say honestly, like for priorities, I would say it would have to be developing character, being humble enough to really understand where I'm at fault or where my issue is at, and then trying to change it for better. So for example, like I didn't have the best relationship with my little sister. If anything, there was a lot of animosity between the 2 of us. So it's like being in a position now where it's like I'm able to be intentional about our relationship, really put her first, and more importantly, like in a sense, it kind of ties in with the others. It's like, since she's younger than me, it was one of those things that I had to take care of her as we were kids. So it kind of like is that bow to the 3. Yeah, it would definitely have to be those 3. Now, I know for some people, like especially in the Christian community, it would be like God, the church, like all that stuff. That's on a category of its own. It's hands down like in another set above those 3. It's just when it comes to the 3 about me personally, has to be that. I know God's going to always be first. I know the church is always going to be second. I know serving the community is always going to be 3rd. So at that part, I know for a fact. It's just like those 3 things for myself.
I got you. Wanted to ask you what inspired you to get into, well, I guess you did talk about the youth work inspiration, but let me flip that and ask, what do you enjoy most about the youth work?
In reality, it's just being there for kids. It's as simple as that. It's just being there for them. Because in some situations, they either don't have someone there for them, or they don't have someone there that cares enough about them. They may have a figure there, but that figure's not an impact in their life. And my thing is, I want to be both of those things. I want to be involved in your life, and I want to have an impact in your life to make sure you succeed as best as you can. Not just now, not just those straight A's, straight B's. I'm going to be real. Some of these kids straight C's. But it's like, I want to be able to help you get to a position where you can be in the future that is not just beneficial for you, but beneficial, as I said earlier, for your future generations, for in a sense, the future you.
Yeah, man.
So
I mean, I just enjoy listening to the passion about working with kids, because, you know, that was one of my biggest regrets, man. You know, I had worked with Gracie before at a different school site, and I turned away, man. I chased the money, you know, switched jobs, and I had forgotten the reason why I was there in the first place. And like, yeah, I wish I could have been around more, probably stayed longer, but, you know, we need more people like you in the system and in those roles. So I'm glad you're there.
Thank you.
For sure. I had one more question, but it was a fleeting question. Just a heads up, we have about 10-15 minutes left in the podcast. Just want to say thank you again for sharing your personal stories, the openness, the energy. I hope you're having a good time. I know I am. So
yeah, this is great.
For sure, man. For sure. I'm glad. Throw me another number.
Ooh, all right. You know what? I'm gonna give this one to you. You choose a number. You know what the list is, so I'll let you feed it and go the direction you want it to go.
All right, yeah. What's the best compliment you ever received?
Oh, outside of my looks, outside of my fit. Man, that's such an issue. I've gotten perfection a few times, but
wow, damn, yeah. Man, that's high regard. Perfection? Oh shit.
Yeah, you know. No.
Yeah,
I would say, hands down, the best compliment that I've gotten was one of the kids that I work with, not at my job, but one that I work with in my youth ministry. And I know he says it jokingly, he says it in a way that's jokingly, but I know it's sincere in his heart. It's like, he calls me dad. I'm gonna be real. I'm 25. I'm 25. I just turned 25. This kid's like literally, I think he's like 15, 16. So like, no way I could be his dad. Either that or I was working for that when I was really young. So also, this kid's also taller than me. Yeah, no, it's like he calls me his dad. And like I said, he says it in a way that's joking, but I know his life. I know his personal story. I know his testimony. I know what he's been through. And it's like, it's a huge thing, because it's like, you know, some of us, we may have had the best dad. So you may understand where that comes from in a positive tone. And some of us had the worst dad. And you may not know what that looks like in a positive tone, but it's like, when you think about it in the things that you wanted in a father, it's like, I guess I'm fulfilling it for this kid. I'm showing up. I'm there on time. I'm taking him to events. I'm spending time with him. You know, not just at those events, but taking him out to go eat, talking to him, asking him about how life is. You know, really being active in his life. And it's like, you know, it's crazy that it's like, I'm doing this out of a genuine heart, but it's like the community that I serve has fatherless kids in it. So it's like, when you think about that, it's like, in some ways, depending on the students I work with, it's either a job or it's something, you know, like something I get paid for, which I still don't consider it as a job per se, but it's like, you know, the student that I work with, it's like, I'm doing what I think I needed as a kid. He labels me, or he gives me that label. And you think about it, and it's like, you know, I don't have kids, but it's like, in a sense, I guess I am one. And that's like, I'm doing what I consider is the bare minimum. So, you know, for those who don't have the best father, it's like, I guess I'm doing the maximum.
I mean, just being there, man. I think that's super special that he calls you dad, man. And, you know, even if he does say it jokingly, and like you said, we both know that's some serious shit. And that's like a memory he's gonna have of you for an entire life, you know? Because I don't know how long you've been working with the youth.
In total, I would say maybe about 3 years, like dedicated 3 years.
Yo, man, like 10 years from now, they're gonna be like, oh, remember that dude that was at, and we remember those figures that were like, did the extra stuff, you know, or like tried to get to know us. And not every teacher has that capacity or like the energy to be doing that for every student. But that's why it's so great that there's so many different people within the school environment that kids can relate to or talk to. But yeah, no, it's a trip, definitely a trip. The highest, like, and that's also how like when you've been accepted or been embraced by that kid or kids. I never got to be a dad, but they called me stepdad for a little bit because there was already a guy another staff member that they considered dad, and I'm like, oh, it's cool, I'll be stepdad. But yeah, one step lower.
I get that. There's one guy at my job that's literally the exact same thing. They love this guy, and it's totally fine. I have no issue with it. Do I cry myself to sleep? Maybe, but I understand where they're coming from. He's been there a whole lot longer. I've been working at my job for like about a year or so. I'm a COVID hire, relative. Yeah, 2 weeks before the pandemic. That's when I got in.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing with kids, right? Like the time you spend with them, that relationship grows, especially if they see that you're there every day showing up. It's like for kids who don't have people who show up, that's like the most important thing you can do is be consistent. If they're looking for you, they know where to find you. It's a trip. Yeah, man, working with kids is amazing. All right, one more number and then we'll reach the concluding portion.
All right.
Unless you want me to choose again, it's fine.
Yeah, you know what? You iced this cupcake, bro. Go for it.
All right, man. Do you believe in magic?
Yes, it's called witchcraft in the Bible. I'm on like a mixed kind of thing with it, where it's like I definitely believe in it. Like it's there. Going off of like biblical text, it's definitely there. It's a difficult thing though. It's like I'm just scared of the unknown. I don't know how they do certain things. Like, when I was growing up, Chris Angel was like a huge thing. I don't know if he's still a huge thing or not. I think David Blaine came up and like took the spot or something like that. Yeah, but it's like, so it was great to see all that stuff. But yeah, like I would say for some of the things, yeah. For some of the stuff, nah. It's like I'm not hugely like, if you show me a card trick right now, I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, dude, like, that was crazy. I'm gonna be like, no, you like did it in a way that like benefited you, and it's like I get it. But if you were to like, I don't know, shoot, like legitimately make yourself appear out of nowhere, then yeah, like I would be like, oh dude, that's magic right there.
I got you. Yeah,
that's that Disneyland stuff that I know about.
Dude, appearing out of nowhere, I mean that's gotta be some God stuff right there. That's some God magic, man.
That's what I'm saying. Because like if you think about it, dog, it's like most of the time they end up like curbing it so that way it benefits them. It's like, choosing a number like out of a card deck or something like that. Like that's one thing. But it's like, if you told me to pick a card out of the deck that you had, and then all of a sudden, like you were to just throw up, and like the card that you had like in your throw up was like that number that I chose, then yeah, 100%. Like I would be like, oh my gosh, bro, like how did you do this? I would be dumbfounded. But like, yeah, you gotta go above and beyond to impress me. And then I would be like in suspense, and then immediately turn to like, all right, so I know you believe in Satan right now, and I'm gonna help you out with this. So we're gonna do an exorcism right here, right now. You cool with this? Cool. Because regardless, you getting baptized today, dog.
Yeah, because it's too crazy, man. Too crazy. Yeah. I don't know what deal you made to gain these powers, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got you. The one that freaks me out is when they do the whole like the card appears in their pocket somewhere else. I'm like, bro, you didn't touch me. How did this happen? That's what makes me go, what? Like, but yeah. I feel you, man. All right. Yeah. So we reached the concluding portion of the podcast. I only have about 4 questions left for you, man. Once again, thank you. And yeah. This next question is actually coming from my previous guest. I've been trying to find a way to connect my guests. So this one's from my previous guest. Shout out Vince. The question was, if someone told you could have everything you dreamed of, but it came at the price of losing your talent, would you do it?
I would say no. I don't think I would. Because in a sense, I'm using my talent now to try to do what I'm dreaming of. So it's like, in a sense, it's kind of like the easy way out. And I'm like, no, I think I would be good. I think I would much rather keep my talent and like reach the people that I'm trying to reach. So that way, like, in a sense, I have both. And like, you know, as I said earlier, bro, I'm a ram, dog. Like, I'm out here hard headed, bro. I if it's not working, I'm gonna go until it works, type thing.
No doubt, man.
So yeah, no, I'm totally fine without it. Like, no easy way out for me.
Yeah, you got that realization, because you know it is tempting, you know, to skip steps, but it's not always as satisfying, you know. Like that's the one. If I thought for myself and I was like, okay, what if I did have everything I dreamed of, but I lost my talent? It would almost feel empty, you know. It almost feel like, you know, what's next? And if I suck at everything else because I don't have my talent anymore, it's like I really can't do anything. But yeah. I guess you could always learn stuff, but I like the natural talents.
You know, it'll become like a life is vain type thing. It's like at that point, like life is vain. Like, what's the point at that point? You know, it's like I did it. I helped people, but it's like I didn't get the satisfaction of actually going through that process. You know. There's a satisfaction in the lows that we go through, because when we get to those high points, it's great to look down from.
No doubt. You ever seen that show Good Place?
Yeah, great show. Funny.
You watched till the end, the series finale?
No, I haven't.
Well, spoiler alert, they get to the good place, but they have this whole they have this whole thing about what it means to be there, and you know, how you deal with it, which was like pretty interesting. But yeah, my next question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest that comes on to 34 questions?
I guess in the same sense that, or like in the same way that like I've been leading, and it, like if you were to like analyze our entire conversation, it's like there's a specific path that we're going on it. I think it's somewhat obvious. So it's like I would definitely say, what small thing can you do right now so that way a huge impact can be done in someone else's life in the future, or something along the lines of that.
Make a huge impact. All right, for sure. Sorry, I had to think about that. I was flip-flopping in my mind whether or not to answer this question for myself, so that kind of like gives you a way to ask me a question too. But yeah. Would you like to know an answer?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if I was gonna relate this to the podcast, it'd be like, I think this is a small thing that I can do for people that they'll always have, that they'll always be able to share later down the line, or even just look back for themselves, you know, and just reflect and be like, yo, that's who I was at that point in my life. And those were things I took for granted, you know, growing up. You know, like I had this one high school friend who recorded like our last 2 weeks of senior year in high school, and he like cut it up all in a video, and now that's like one of the videos I go back to just to remember or show other people what I was like back then. And yeah, so doing this, like if I was gonna relate to the podcast, and outside of that, another small thing I could do is just make time for people. You know, it's not that hard to give someone a call, talk for a little while, I'm talking to myself right now because I'm like, yo, bro, go call that person, go text that friend. So yeah, doing those small things, they add up. So thank you for that question. I think
no problem. Oh,
this is a new tradition I'm going to start on the show, where that last question I'll answer, and yeah, so that's great. I appreciate that. My last question for you, man, is what is the greatest lesson you've learned thus far?
Ooh. Knowing that I'm not always right, being humble and to admit that, and it's it's a simple one, but it's an easy one because it's like, I'm gonna be raw. I've done so much wrong. I've done a lot to hurt people, and I've been hurt myself. That concept of hurt people. So it's like, it's reality for me. It's my life, and it's like one of those things that I struggled with. And like, when you can admit that you're wrong, either in past experiences or in stuff that you literally did 2 minutes ago, it's like you're able to really, one, forgive yourself and have the opportunity to try to pursue forgiveness. Well, and it's like, it could be as something as like, if you're married, maybe you made yourself a cup of coffee, but you didn't make your hubby or your boo thing a cup of coffee. It's and it's not something that like I perceive as like something right or wrong, but it's just something that it's like, it could be something that's like how they perceive it. It's like, so it's, in a sense, it's really just like admitting, you know what, I don't know everything. I don't want to go off of assumptions for the rest of my life. I don't want to go off of pride for the rest of my life. I don't want to go off of, like what I think is right for the rest of my life. And, when you have that mentality, it's like you're really able to put other people first. And that's a game changer. When we think of this world, when we think of where we're at right now, a lot of people are thinking this: what can I do to propel myself forward? But nobody's really thinking, what have I done wrong? Or what have I done? Or what do I not know? So that way I can not just propel myself forward, but propel myself with the people around me forward. In a sense, it's like group growth. And a lot of the time, it's like you're able to really develop a humble heart and just pursue knowledge, really understand where people are coming from, really be able to, like, as I said earlier, like really be able to put other people ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I'm with you 100%, man. I just thinking about, like, you mentioned you were stubborn or hard-headed. I get that all the time. People tell me I'm the same way, and I can see how, thinking, I don't want to admit it, thinking that I'm always right, but I also know that I don't ask for help enough. I also don't try to admit my faults and like, oh, I don't know this is why it's not working, and I need to go back to the drawing board, or basically try to be more humble. Just because you don't, that's one thing I want to say is, like, just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean you're humble.
Yeah.
you could be boasting yourself and be really prideful in your mind, which is something I'm working on. So thank you for sharing that, man. Any last things to add, or you good?
I'm good. Yeah.
For sure. Just want to thank everybody out there who came through the show, listened, got to know us a little bit better. Thank you, Roberto, again. And yeah, I still don't have a signature way to end my podcast. Still figuring it out. So